Welcome, everyone, to People on Dating. I'm your host, Will Mraz. And for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, this podcast is about the ups and downs of dating and how to navigate through it. Today, my guest is Dan Aguilera. Did I get your last name right?
Yeah, Aguilera, like Christina.
Okay. Dan specializes in empowering single men entrepreneurs to break free from negative dating cycles by building confidence, emotional intelligence, and authentic communication skills using a neuroscience-based coaching framework. And he helps clients create meaningful relationships while maintaining focus on the professional goal. His signature program, Dating Mastery for Entrepreneurs, guides high achievers to develop mindset mastery and lasting connection. Dan, thank you so much for being on People on Dating. How are you?
I'm doing great, Will. Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I'm really excited about this.
No, it's my pleasure. So, Dan, tell us a little about yourself. Like, what was your journey like? Why get into the coaching? Especially to help out male entrepreneurs. What was it about that field that was maybe you saw lacking?
Yeah, well, my background was really nothing in coaching. I went to school for law, still do some work in the legal field. But I moved down to Florida from New Jersey 4 years ago, and I discovered entrepreneurship for the first time. And I never knew that field. I said, I want to do something for myself. I don't just want to, work for in an office for a long time.
Right.
Compounded with that, when I was younger, I had a lot of insecurities. I was not very confident at all. I was terrified of approaching women. And I struggled in my dating life pretty much late teens, college years, and through most of my 20s. So it was around the time that I made the move to Florida and decided I wanted to start my own business that I started following a lot of online content about how to
Mhm.
become a better man, about what women really want, what their true nature is like. And while I learned a lot of very good, valuable information, I also came across a lot of negative content, a lot of what you probably know as the red pill content, who
Yeah.
teach men that women are superficial and that you're never going to be good enough for them. They only want the 1%. Don't even bother trying. And on top of hearing it online and sometimes reading it in books, I hear it a lot in my outgoings. Like I have some friends, acquaintances that I meet when I'm out in restaurants and bars sometimes, or even networking events. And when I tell them about what I do, they're impressed by it, but at the same time, they talk about their negative experiences with dating, about how they were cheated on and how they've had they become emotionally attached early on, and that the women ended up leaving them, even cheating on them, ghosting them, and they get really worked up about it. So my approach is very question based. I ask about what they've been through, how that's affected their mindset now, and what we could do moving forward. Because the absolute worst thing you could do to recover from something like that is do nothing. While I do believe in focusing on yourself, to just sit home and be afraid to try again, be afraid of failure, you're never going to progress, because like in business, progression involves failure, and you learn from that. So we do benefit from that. Go ahead. Do you want to ask something?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that about the red pill and all that. Like part of it, I definitely believe in, and a lot of it, I won't say a lot of it, but let's say 50%, I believe 50% is questionable in terms of because I know, they paint women in a certain direction, and I know some of them might be, but I know a lot of them aren't. And one of the things I wanted to ask you is I've noticed whether it's seeing content online or talking to some men, it seems like once they find a woman that they like and they approached, it seems like they put their entrepreneurship on back burner and they want to please the woman that they're with. They're afraid to lose them, so they lose a little bit of themselves in terms of entrepreneurship to focus their attention on her, on the woman. Have you noticed that, or did you come across that? Like I said, I talked to a few people, and it seems like that's what they did, and then they realized, my God, I shouldn't have done that. I should have just kept my focus and all that. um did my statement questions make sense?
They do. And honestly, I've seen it work out kind of on both extremes. I've seen the men who become overly attached to a woman. They try to impress her. And the big thing with entrepreneurs that I find, the high performing men, is they buy into the hypergamy, which I'm sure you've heard of, that women want
Yeah.
to up. So they often lead with that. They'll go on a date immediately. They'll spend an hour talking about their job, what they do, maybe how much money they make, how much their house costs. They listen to this content and they think it's impression. They think of a date as an audition or a job.
Right.
I really cringe when I hear people say like they compare a date to a job interview, because in my opinion, that's setting yourself up for an awkward encounter. You know, this is not a business meeting. Be yourself. And that's where vulnerability comes in. You know, I tell men like the alpha male mindset. I started reading a lot about that when I first started following dating advice. And while I think it has some good merit, it's been taken to an extreme. That's the red
Yeah.
pill, the extreme of that. We're not men are while men are held to high standards in our society, we're not superheroes. We can't be expected to just have everything, to have the good looks, to have the money, to have the nice house, to have the car, to have the resources, the network. We're just not like that. We're human beings with flaws. We all do the same things, you know, bodily functions. We make mistakes. We're all human. You know, I don't want to be too crude, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So now getting back to the question you asked, on the other extreme, you have the entrepreneurs who work so much, they're so busy that they often don't have time for dating. So that's when a time management problem often comes in, and I can work with them through that. But the key thing there is when they don't have a lot of time and they have little communication with women, they tend to attract emotionally detached women, meaning they tend
Mm.
to attract the women who's okay with seeing them once a week for an hour, and doesn't ever text him to see how he's doing, or doesn't ask to hang out. And then, of course, on the side, it's most likely that she's seeing other men. So he
Right.
might be emotionally invested in her, but not putting in the work, the right amount of work and dedicating time. And then he ends up losing her, and he wondered what. So basically, it's like the workaholic and the guy that's overly anxious for approval and attention.
Yeah, talk a little bit more about the time management aspect, because that's pretty, nobody talks about that, like how, you got an entrepreneur that's trying to get a business up and running, or he's has it up and running, but now, he has to focus a little bit on his dating, uh, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, set aside his time for dating. So, talk more about the time management part. That I find that interesting.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing to do depending on each person's situation. I mean, obviously, many entrepreneurs, that's the beauty of being an entrepreneur and having your own business, is that you don't have as many time constraints. Whereas the others, if you work a job and you do a business on the side, you're really slammed. So what we do, like I typically like to break dating down by hours per week based on their schedule, on their work schedule, potentially other commitments they have, clubs they're members of. How much free time could they generally spare on the weekends, on the evenings? It could be 5, 10, 15. And then we break down where they could dedicate that time to meeting a woman. Now,
Mhm.
we can get into dating apps in a little bit, but generally I like to encourage people to date the old fashioned way, meet in person.
Mhm.
Because for men, dating apps, yes, you could see success. I'm not saying that they don't work, but they require a lot of time and energy and investment that the payoff isn't so high. So, and I don't, dating apps have become like the new video games. It's just something you could easily find yourself trapped indoors for hours, swiping, swiping. So while I do help guys with their dating apps, I do encourage them to find their true interests. Again, I don't want to tell guys to just go where the women are. Like, I'm not here,
Yeah.
like, geographically, this is where more women hang out. You got to go where you like to go. You got to go where you feel comfortable. So people like to go to bars and nightclubs to pick up women. Like, God knows I used to do that for years, and I didn't see much success. If I'm somebody that doesn't like to stay up late and I don't like to drink, like, don't go to those places. That's what I
Yeah.
encourage. If you're active, like say you like to play tennis or pickleball, join a club. Look for things in your community.
Mhm.
You have to challenge yourself. There's going to be go places you've never been before. Reach out to friends, reach out to your network, see what they do. Like, don't just hang around with the same people doing the same things. Expand your network, but make it something that you really like.
Yeah, I wanted to talk more about that because while you were talking, I was thinking, well, how about being in like-minded situations? Because there's women entrepreneurs too. Would you encourage, or at least have your coaching client be open-minded to dating someone that's an entrepreneur themselves now you got two people that got to find their time to date each other. So how did that might work into play?
I think it's something that could work, and I would encourage it purely because obviously they would have a lot to bond over. And
Right.
because most likely they would both be, I would say, equally on an intellectual level that they can, because like men, like successful men tend to be very logical and analytical. And while that doesn't usually turn on women, it doesn't help you so much in the dating aspect. If you have somebody that is, we've all met those real boss babes, I think they're called now. They
Yeah.
love that type of intellectual conversation. So I would encourage it. I'd like to see it play out because, so many married couples are, in business together that I know. Look at Grant Cardone and his wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
Match made in heaven. And so, it's definitely something I encourage. The one thing I haven't seen an issue with this personally, but like the polarity in a relationship, one has to be masculine, one has to be feminine. I see
Mhm.
the potential in that type of matchup that, they both are striving for the upper hand. They're both striving to take the lead. However, I've listened to a lot of female entrepreneurs talk, and I feel that the majority of them can be in their masculine energy at work, in business, but come home and be relaxed in their feminine energy and trust their man. So it's something that's
Can that be turned off though by the boss babe though?
exactly.
Yeah.
There's exceptions. There's exceptions, but I think if it's something that your people are concerned about, it's certainly. I'm not going to rule it out. I'm not going to say, oh, don't bother. It's not going to work out. It's something that you should definitely try. You're going to walk away with a learning experience. Rejection, things not working out. It's not going to kill you. You're going to learn something from it.
Right. Yeah. So I love what you said because having the boss babe, and then if he's a not right, so I'm flip it a little bit. She's a boss babe, but he's a 9 to 5er. Again, so because now I when I'm looking at content or I'm reading about it, some women don't want to date now the 9 to 5 guy. Some, I mean, I'm not saying majority, it might be a small percentage because she wants to get up and go whenever, she has that break and go on vacation. The guy that's 9 to 5 now, he's got to wait a couple of weeks to get his vacation time going. Now, are we seeing more boss babes being open to dating the 9 to 5, or the boss babe prefers the date, an entrepreneur like herself? Because I think for most men, they're okay dating a 9 to 5
Yeah.
woman, but reverse it. In your coaching and in your everyday life, what are you seeing out there?
I see. Yeah, I think what you sure you know this and your audience knows this. What women one value that women truly value in a man is ambition.
Yeah,
So I think that a boss babe could potentially date a 9 to 5 guy if she saw potential in him and she saw that he was ambitious towards something higher. So if he's working, say, as a paralegal in a law firm, but he's going to law school on the side and he has dreams of owning his own law firm one day, that could potentially be a good match. Now, if he's somebody that just, he's an admin that staples papers all day, he's content with that. And I don't mean to say there's anything wrong with that, but
no,
I'm pointing out the mismatch. And then, he goes home in the evening, has a couple of beers and watches Netflix and then just repeats the cycle again. That there might be a mismatch there because he has no real outside interest. They really nothing they could bond over. He may be a little bit lazy. He may not, he's just not as ambitious. So that's like a differentiation, like in an archetype that I,
yeah, and again, being online and trying to, any type of research I can when it comes to dating, it seems that if a woman doesn't see that a man is ambitious, ambitious enough, that's a huge turnoff. Now, for most men, I know for me, I don't care what a woman did in business, or if she was a businesswoman or just a 9 to 5. I didn't care. Or is that much of a difference between a man and a woman when it comes to dating someone that's a 9 to 5? I know you explained the woman's side basically. How about guys? Do they care if a woman is a boss babe or just a 9 to 5er?
in my experience, not really.
Yeah,
Or because us men, it's sad to say, but we are very visual based,
yeah,
and a lot of guys, especially when they're really attractive, they tend to just lower their standards or just be at her beck and call. Like they're willing to say anything, do anything to get her approval.
yeah.
So, but anyway, getting back to the boss babe thing, I think they're intimidated by it a little bit,
Mhm.
but it's not something that they wouldn't break it off because of that. They wouldn't stop pursuing a woman, in my experience, over that.
Yeah.
I mean, look at our culture today. It's become the new normal. Men are just getting used to it. So we realize that the days of the women staying home, taking care of the children, and the men coming home, they're just gone, and they're probably not coming back. So, not saying
Yeah.
it's a bad thing, but it's just we've adjusted to a new century, a new society. They're just the gender roles are sort of neck and neck right now, at least in the professional world.
Yeah, I noticed that too. And it's funny because when it comes to dating, it depends. like some of the women I talk to, whether they're in their 20s up to their 50s, they want a man to have a certain level of income or some type of status. Is that, like we talked about the man that's been an entrepreneur. So are women seeing, are they preferring that man to have that type of status, whether it's online or in the business community? They know where to go, they know the in parties, they know the in events. Does that matter to women a lot?
Yeah, I think women are attracted to status. Now, I have to clarify because so many people hear the word status, and again, they start to think of, oh, wealthy, successful businessman. The way
Right.
I define status is like, to use like sort of a juvenile term, popularity. Really
Which
means
is true though,
yeah, it's
in a
true.
sense,
Like
yeah.
it's essentially like, the jock in the high school guy that just knows everybody and everybody likes him. He can, ask any girl to the dance. Like it's how many friends you have. So like if you're someone who's a little bit of a loner, it may be hard to attract a woman like that. If you
Right.
don't have some type of charisma, if you're not great at, emotional intelligence, reading her body language, instigating conversation, keeping a conversation flowing, it may be hard if you don't have that social proof. If you're not
Right.
introduced by a mutual friend, somebody she knows and trusts. So there are challenges there. I'm not saying it's a deal breaker, but yeah, women are attracted to status. So it's good to, point out, not go out of your way to do it, but in conversation, point out people, say, I'm here with my coworkers. We come here every Thursday after work, that type of thing. Or we play the sport on Saturday, pickleball every
Yeah.
Saturday. So we come here, it gives you social proof. It shows that you're not as much of a loner, that you have validity.
Yeah,
For
we're
sure.
talking with Dan Aguilera here on the People on Dating Show. And so, Dan, so I wanted to touch base a little bit, like you said, about apps, but also social media. It
Mhm.
seems that social media, whether it's Instagram, it seems like that's the new dating app now that people are talking about.
Heard of it.
Can we get fooled by social media in terms of someone's, let's say, status? Because you could take pictures anywhere. You could probably Photoshop a lot of pictures. When you do your coaching clients, or when you work with your coaching clients, does social media come into play? Like, should we be aware of it? I know I am. I don't plan on meeting anyone through social media. I'd rather be, like you said earlier, let's meet somewhere in person, business events, social events, things like that. Touch base on a little bit about social media.
Yeah, I don't encourage people to use social media as a dating app, and honestly, I'll say that for men and women.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand when men meet women in public or maybe through a dating app, they'll want to exchange Instagrams. Again, she might be looking for that social proof, and that's fine. My personal recommendation, and people might fight me on this, but I like, for example, I have an Instagram, for example. I use it both for some personal stuff and for business stuff. And I'm just flooded with DMs from spam accounts or advertisements. I don't check or I have friends that if they find a meme, the slightest amusing, they send me the DM of the meme. I don't have time to look at that. When it comes to communication and planning a date, I use text over the phone via text.
Mm.
So if a woman asks for my Instagram, I'll give it to her. And this is what I recommend to my clients too. But if he has to schedule a date and ask for her number and she wants to give Instagram, this could be in person or over the phone, or in person or through an app. I encourage them to just say something to the effect of, I'm happy to share my Instagram. However, I don't use it for communication. I'd love to
Mm.
schedule a date with you. But if that's something you're comfortable with, let's exchange numbers and just leave it at that. See how she.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, Dan. I started noticing even in some of my interactions where now everybody's exchanging their Instagram or Facebook. It seems like nobody wants to talk about exchange numbers anymore. So again, I like what you said. Hey, you could rather communicate that way through, through a phone conversation or at least some type of text. Is that okay with the texting just as much?
That's
Because yeah,
fine.
go ahead.
We live in an age where, phone calls, I feel that they're most appropriate after you've been out on a couple of dates and you've really developed a connection, like you feel
Yeah.
comfortable talking to each other. I really wouldn't call a woman out of the blue now, just like if you met her somewhere, chatted for like 5 minutes, just to ask her on a date. Not to say you can't do it, but it's not really the norm anymore. Like it could be a little too much too soon, especially if she's not expecting, your call and not expecting to hear from you. So I think scheduling a first date is pretty appropriate through text.
Yeah. So, Dan, talk a little bit more about your coaching program, a little bit about the dating mastery for entrepreneurs. So, how that came about? Like, I know you talked a little bit about earlier, but was it more that that was missing in the marketplace a little bit because you started seeing maybe men not approaching or men just so focused that they're losing, you know, out on maybe someone that they might be able to, end up marrying one day?
Yeah, so really, I just had this idea because of personal struggles with my dating history in the past. I wanted to help other men. And it was really just about a year ago that I decided I wanted to start a dating coaching business. But I was really all over the place because I don't have a business background, an entrepreneurial background. I didn't have anybody to mentor me or guide me. I was
Mhm.
all over the place wondering, should I work with men or women, men and women? Should I work with people in a specific demographic or try to help everybody? I really just didn't have a firm grasp on it. Finally, I did hire some business coaches that really zeroed in on the idea I had, and they helped me narrow down to help entrepreneurs. And the thing I love about this program is it's not like I hesitate to call myself a dating coach because I'm not here. I'm against pickup lines. I'm against
Yeah.
all that just guard like with the outcome of you got to get her to go out with you. And if you don't get her to go out to you, you failed. If you don't take her home tonight, you failed. That's the
Right.
whole issue of a form of toxic masculinity, which I don't know if we'll have time to talk about tonight, but men just encourage each other in a negative way about the object of just getting a woman on a date. This is all about the self. It's about empowering yourself to develop both emotional intelligence, overcome negative mindset, overcome limiting beliefs in dating, challenge yourself, and empowers them to become a better version of themselves in the process. It's all about setting boundaries. A key thing for men is
Yeah.
setting boundaries. And it sounds so simple and sounds common sense, but it's really you'll be surprised how many men just forget about all that, especially when when they encounter a beautiful woman that they're really attracted to. They're willing to just compromise on their beliefs, compromise on their lifestyle, just compromise on who they are to win her approval. So it's all about, a man could date many women in his life. He's probably not going to live with all of them, but the one person he'll have to live with forever is himself. So it's all about being happy with yourself first, defining what you want, and then from there determine the strategies necessary to accomplish what you're looking for.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree on the on setting boundaries, and I want to touch a little bit more based on touch base on that, and let's talk about a little bit about toxic masculinity and what it means. But setting boundaries, is it because, like you said, maybe men are afraid to say no, they don't want to, upset her? Because Dan, I went through that.
Mhm.
I saw myself, especially on the financial side of it, not having boundaries. On the personal side, I did have some boundaries, but on the financial aspect, I wanted to, make, and this is like 5, 6 years ago that it took me that long to wake up. Are more men just afraid to say no because, like I said, if they meet someone they find beautiful, they don't want to upset them, but now you're losing yourself to please her. And now I think for me, I became miserable.
Yeah.
So
Well,
talk about that.
a lot of men live in scarcity mindset, and it's a hard thing to break out of because
Yeah.
we see like women go out, they're approached looking good, they're approached by 10, 15, 20 men in a night. Men aren't approached as much, or even when they do approach a woman, it doesn't the interaction doesn't always end up the way that they wanted to each time.
Yeah.
So through that societal conditioning, we're taught to believe that, oh well, we don't have as many options as women. Now, from a numbers standpoint, that may be true. The options are outnumbered. However, that doesn't mean we don't have the options. Like there are more. I've Corey Wayne, a dating coach that I used to follow a lot. He said there are just mathematically there are more single beautiful women in this world than we could ever possibly ask out. So
Wow.
what we want is out there. Like the scarcity mindset is really just keeping you limited. It's keeping you in prison. It's just telling you can't do this. And I understand like rejection is hard, feeling like asking a bunch of women out and being rejected over it makes you feel less about yourself. It's just a natural emotion, but it's
Yeah.
just an emotion. It's not doesn't define who you are. So a lot of what I do is just, it's sort of somewhat cognitive. It's just overcoming those beliefs. And it's a question based. So I ask, why do you feel that way? Tell me, was there an event that led to that? It's really delving deep. It's not just simple, well, me telling you, well, do this better next time.
Right.
Well, the answer, they have the answer. I know these men have the answer to their problem. It's just about they haven't thought about it in a specific way. They're looking at it through a negative, dirty mindset, we'll say.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And and it's funny because segueing into toxic masculinity, it seems again, depending what you watch online and all that, and how you see women saying that men are sassy or they're toxic, uh, new buzzwords that are coming out in this, especially in this generation over the last 4 to 5 years. Um, why would someone say that, hey, so and so has that toxic masculinity? And if you could define it, like, why is that such a now a popular buzzword with some women?
So my personal definition of toxic masculinity that I incorporate through my program isn't what the traditional one is. The traditional one is basically saying that men taking the lead is aggressive and it's inconsiderate and
Yeah,
they're suppressing women's power. That's what you see in the media. It's again that suppression of masculinity, trying to make the sexes equal.
yeah,
Which of course they are under the law. That's been in debate for decades. But that's something that's probably never going to end, and who knows where that's going to go. I'm interested to see where it goes moving forward. But how I define toxic masculinity is how men we put so much value on how many women you can attract, how many women you could sleep with. I'm
uh,
going to use it. I hate this term with a burning passion, but I'm going to use it. Body count. What your body count is.
oh my God,
I
yeah.
matters so much. Because real quick anecdote about me, I was in a fraternity in college and, it helped me really come out of my shell. I did a lot of partying and everything and talked with a lot of beautiful women, but I was not successful with dating or with hooking up, so to speak. It was just, I'm not that type of guy. I'm not like a
Yeah,
F boy. I'm a classy dater. But all the guys there, every meeting we had, they brag about how many women they slept with, and we'd all give them a round of applause, and we had to just treat them like they were a god, because they got a woman to sleep with them. And then we had to hear about their body counts. And it's like, why are we promoting this? Because not all men are able to attract that many women in that fashion. So
yeah,
you're making them feel, I know it made me feel really insecure. It made me feel worthless. And, I've seen now so many men are feeling the same way, even in their adult lives. I encounter men like this in my adult lives. So putting value on just how women are attracted to you and how many women you can quote unquote pull, another term I hate, is just really, I think it's extremely toxic. It creates insecurity, it instills depression in men, anxiety, lack of self-worth. So that is not what male bonding is, in my opinion. It's really talking about where you're struggling, where you could use some help, and just encouraging them to be their best self, not to be attached to an outcome. Because once you're putting that type of pressure on them, you're giving them an unrealistic goal because you can't control how a woman thinks, how a woman responds to what you say and how you say it and what you do next. It's not a magic trick. You can't manipulate her into responding the way you want her to. Guys claim that they do it. I call them out on their BS all the time. Like they
yeah.
lie to put up that front. That's my version of toxic masculinity.
Yeah, I mean, when I was younger, yeah, I would hear guys brag about that, and it was such a turn off. I'm like, good for you, dude. And I didn't want to hear that because, like you said, it causes insecurity. Oh man, because now I gotta try to be someone that I'm not, and I'm kind of like you. I, I don't ask about a woman's body count. I never did. That wasn't a term back when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s. All new terms. But I mean, first of all, Dan, thank you so much for being on People on Dating. I really appreciate it. And before I let you go, anything else you want to talk about or anything else you want to promote?
Well, just really my website. If you go onto so my website is empowermencoaching.com. And just to enunciate, that's like the word empowerment without the T at the end, empowermencoaching.com. On there, you can download a free ebook. You can check out my program. It's a 12-week program. It's detailed about the topics we address during each week. And it's important to note that each week is tailored to the needs of the client. It's not just set in stone. If they're struggling with something that maybe I didn't include on there, we tackle that. So it's really very tailored based to each specific person. But from there, there's a calendar. You can go book a call with me, a consultation, and we could talk and see where you're struggling and how I can help you.
Yeah, no, sounds good. Well, first of all, again, Dan, Thank you so much. I thought this was very enlightening and definitely eye-opening, so I appreciate that. Thank you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Will.
All
Thanks for
right.
having me.
Yep, my pleasure. Bye-bye.